Today in the news, Dallas begins making arrests as Texas cities enforce curfews, and we interview a member of the protest in Dallas who was shot by police by a rubber bullet. The Dallas City Hospital report as well. Today is June 2nd, 2020, and this is Dallas Weekly News. Dallas police enforced a nighttime curfew by making dozens of arrests Sunday night in a crackdown after several days of demonstrations that saw multiple protests and eruptions in violence. Dallas officials earlier in the day announced the curfew would be run between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m., and squad cars and police on foot would quickly remove to pick up anyone still on downtown streets once it started. Dallas police tweeted photos Sunday night as officers started making arrests, and within few hours announced at least 70 arrests and noted there is very little activity occurring in the downtown Dallas area. Police Chief Renee Hall said the curfew could be in effect for several days and that several suburban police departments had volunteered officers to help. Chief Hall added, "We will not tolerate any more damage to our city." The curfew measure was put into place as Texas cities braced for the possibility of another night of unrest and sought to prevent a repeat of the violence that broke out on weekend protests over the death of George Floyd and the treatment of black people by police. Thousands of people took to the streets in cities throughout the country Friday and Saturday to protest Floyd's death after the white Minneapolis police officer used his knee to pin Floyd's neck down for several minutes as Floyd pleaded for air and eventually stopped moving. Floyd grew up in Houston, and his body is set to be returned to the city for burial. Texas Governor Greg Abbott declared a statewide disaster on Sunday, which allows him to designate federal agents to do the work of local police. This move comes as some Texans organizers are calling off demonstrators, and others said they plan to proceed. Dallas also closed several downtown civic buildings to the public on Monday, including a civil courthouse and the county administration building. We will now go to an interview with Vincent Van, who was at the protest, and he was shot in the face with a rubber bullet. Here's his interview.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a photographer and I've always wanted to do something like photojournalism. Like, I love that picture of the man standing in Tiananmen Square where there's like four tanks and he's just standing there with grocery bags, in front of them. And so I've always wanted to be in one of those situations to where I could capture one of those moments. And I remember seeing some of the violent protests on Friday. I mean, it was stupid. I mean, people were burning down cop cars, and Dallas police were just out there throwing flashbangs at people, and I was seeing that all the way until 2 a.m. And I wanted to go out there, but it just looked too dangerous. So I did want to go out the following day. I knew there was probably going to be a bigger police presence, and I prepared for that. I knew there was probably going to be some type of tear gas because of videos that I had seen on Friday. And I parked at the West End parking garage, which was probably only 3 or 4 blocks from the Bank of America Plaza where this pretty much all took place. When I first got there, it was super peaceful. There was probably 30 or 40 police cars blocking, all the roads in the area. And when I arrived, there was about 100, maybe 200 people on their knees, just chanting whatever chants they were. And I was standing about 500 yards about 50 yards behind them taking pictures. And I got down on one knee just so if anything was going to get shot or tear gas, I would be able to see it from that angle. Mm-hmm. And I was taking photos, and then all of a sudden they were like, everyone needs to leave right now. They started deploying the tear gas. Everyone sort of dispersed. I actually got behind the police and started loading up more film into my film camera because that's what I was taking pictures on. Mm-hmm. And they didn't bat an eye towards me. There was press behind them. I was next to the press. And I got a close-up video on my phone of me passing all of these different police organizations. They were actually eating pizza after they tear gassed us first, and they were laughing like nothing was going on in the streets. And I was just recording it, and I'm just like, I mean, it just looked crazy. I was seeing people in camo gear and putting on helmets and all these bulletproof vests. And meanwhile, the area that I was in, as far as what I saw in my area, in my group, nobody was doing anything to the cops. Nobody was fighting the cops. Nobody was throwing thing at the cops. You know, there was no businesses in the area that had broken glass. Everyone was just walking in the streets from what I saw in my situation. I can't speak for everyone though. But like I said, they deployed tear gas. Everyone kind of regrouped, and everyone at this point started getting out of the roads because they didn't want us in the road. So we got into a public parking lot, and that's where that video took place, where I got shot in my face. When they came to that parking lot, I could hear them shooting rubber bullets, and they were deploying more tear gas, and I started screaming. There's a video of me screaming, get ready for gas, get ready for gas. And yeah, I started recording that video just because I had my camera in one hand and I had my phone in one hand recording. And I'm so glad I got that on recording, because if I hadn't, I don't know if that video would have got out.
Right.
So yeah, I basically got my life saved by these two girls, and it was a couple other people who ended up stopping in the middle of the road and asked us if we needed a ride. And 6 of us got into the back of this Hyundai 4-door car, and we just crammed in and started driving towards the hospital. But like I said, all the cops had all the roads in the city blocked off. So we get to a roadblock, and we're like, he's been shot. At this point, I'm kind of going into shock. I'm like, I really want to go to sleep because I'm losing so much blood, and I'm having to have questions asked just so I can stay up. And a Dallas police officer gets me on the ground, starts applying pressure, and I kept asking him for an ETA on an ambulance, and nobody could give us an ETA. And we're just like, screw this. We can't wait. This guy is losing so much blood, and I just wanted to go to sleep so bad. And so the girls that I was with threw me back in the car, locked the car door, because the cops were actually trying to get my ID. They were trying to ID me, and they were also trying to say that maybe I got hit with a brick by one of the protesters, and they were trying to argue that no, it was a cop, because cops don't have lasers on their gun. And they were just arguing, and I'm hearing all this while I'm bleeding out, and I'm just like, why are you not getting, you can't escort us to a hospital? We're 2 minutes away. I couldn't really express myself, because like I said, I just want to go to sleep. But we finally ended up getting here, and they stitched me up. I found out all this cheekbone is basically smashed in. So like once I get done with these antibiotics over the next week, all the swelling is going to go down, and I'm going to have to get metal plates put in, and some type of like plastic surgery or something. So invisibility in this eye is pretty much at like 40-50% right now.
Okay. Wow. That is actually very traumatic story. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
it. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And lastly, we know you got to get back. I just want to do one more question is, what is your understanding from your experience about the response from law enforcement to peaceful protests? And I mean that by, obviously you experienced this, but do you feel as though there was anything that, and this is a very strange question to ask, is there anything in that situation where you thought maybe they saw something I didn't, therefore they reacted the way they did? Because peaceful protest seems to be going on in the country, and then it's on tear gas, rubber bullets, these things.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around, maybe I'm missing something. And I know that's completely ridiculous at this point, but from somebody who experienced it, you saw it. Was there anything that would warrant that kind of response from law enforcement during this peaceful protest?
Well, I think the problem is we see all these police shootings across the country, and I have a white father and a black mother, and my dad's always said, record the police when you can. And some of the conversations we had, and not even, I think the scariest thing for any citizen is a scared person with a gun. That doesn't matter if it's a police officer, it doesn't matter if it's a civilian, but a scared person with a gun is the most dangerous person you can have around you. And I honestly think the cops were scared. I think they were scared from seeing what they saw the night before, maybe another group of protesters before the ones before us, and they wanted control of the situation, which I can understand. But I was seeing kids out there, and don't bring your kids to these protests, please. Don't bring your kids out there. I was seeing kids being tear gas and milk being put in their eyes. There was homeless people. Dallas has a large amount of homeless people. A lot of these homeless people were getting shot with rubber bullets, and the people trying to give aid to these people were getting shot. And not all these people are mentally stable. So, is I remember on the way to the hospital, I just kept repeating I was in shock, like literally in shock, and I was just saying I can't believe this is America. It really made me. This is the best country on earth, but that day I just didn't want to be here.
Mm.
I really didn't.
That's telling. And Vincent, like I said, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I appreciate your time, and please just
Of
heal, get
course.
better, stay safe. And we just appreciate you even going out there to try to record and be a part of this community of journalism and keep our history just intact and not skewed. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
As soon as I can see again, I'll try to get out again.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, man.
Thanks, man.
Once again, just be safe and thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And now the Dallas City Hospital capacity report. This has been Dallas Weekly News. I'm your host, Patrick Washington. And as always, you can find these and more stories on dallasweekly.com. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, as always, if you can, stay home, stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow.